Since Burton Snowboards was founded in 1977, they have been the gold standard for snowboard manufacturing. Snowboards are built similarly to a sandwich, in the sense that the materials that make up a snowboard are layered on top of one another, and are glued together via a combination of epoxy resin. These layers include the base, the edges, fiberglass, core, a second layer of fiberglass, and a vinyl top sheet. Snowboard cores are not made up of a single piece of wood, but are instead made up of many strips of wood that have been laminated together. Because snowboards are not a one-size-fits-all product, blank cores like these are made first and will be cut into their final shape depending on which specific board is being made at a certain time, as well as what the size of the board being made is. These snowboard blanks have been cut out and are ready to be layered up with the other materials. The core is cut out on a CNC machine because each board has a unique shape, as well as height and width requirements. These are some examples of the designs that snowboard cores can be cut out into. The shape of the board does in fact matter, as boards are designed to be ridden in certain conditions, ranging from freshly groomed trails to deep backcountry powder. Once the board is ready to be assembled, a sheet of flexible aluminum is used as a base plate for the board to be built on top of. This is to prevent the board from fusing with the hydraulic press later on, as the epoxy resin mixture flows out from the sides of the board. The first layer to go down is the base layer, which is made up of high-density polyethylene plastic that has been extruded into large thin sheets that are then cut into the desired shape to meet the board being made in a similar fashion to the wood core. The metal edges are then layered on top of the base and are held in place with screw-like clamps. The edges will become glued to the base layer once the epoxy resin is applied. The edges are normally made out of steel and are manufactured outside of the Burton facility and supplied in long strips ready to be cut and used. After the edges are applied, a layer of fiberglass and/or carbon fiber is placed on top of the base along with plenty of epoxy resin. These composites will allow the board to be firm yet flexible and allow for repeated flexing from the rider without causing the wood core to become damaged or deformed. It is also part of what gives snowboards their springiness. Next, the core is layered up on top of the fiberglass and will receive another layer of epoxy. Resin is now being applied to the core. The resin being used is plant-based as part of Burton's commitment to environmental sustainability. Another layer of fiberglass is placed on top of the board with strips of carbon fiber running down the middle. Carbon fiber is used this way as a way of adding further support in specific areas of the board in a cost-effective manner. After another layer of resin is applied, the top sheet graphic is placed. The top sheet is made from a vinyl plastic that is normally clear, but in this case, a graphic has been printed onto the vinyl. Burton has a silk screening machine in-house that allows them to apply graphic designs to their top sheets as well as their bases, if it is called for on the board being built. Another protective layer of aluminum is placed on top of the completed board, and the entire assembly is then placed into a snowboard hydraulic press that will press a certain type of camber into the board, and once the epoxy resin mixture hardens, this camber profile will become part of the board assembly overall. Snowboard camber is one of the most interesting aspects of snowboard design, as it allows riders to gain more height off of jumps and park features, and is part of what gives snowboards their unique look and shape. Once the snowboard comes out of the press, there is a lot of excess material that needs to be removed before the snowboard can be waxed and tuned. Large chunks of excess material can be cut off freehand using a jigsaw. After the large chunks have been removed, finer pieces are removed using a bandsaw. Once all the excess material is removed, the board goes through a wet grinder to ensure that the base is smooth and uniform. After the board goes through the grinder, the sidewall and edges are roughly sanded to ensure that no excess material is left clinging to them before the board enters the tuning machine. The tuning machine is the final step that the board goes through before it is given a quality control check and shipped out. The machine will sharpen the edges of the snowboard as well as apply a healthy amount of base wax so that the board can glide across the snow.